on this. So this one was, I wish this hadn't been deleted because it was, I love living separately from my husband. And she was, see, this is good that I read these ahead of time, but she was basically talking about how, and I can't remember the specifics, of course, but her husband had gone out of town for a period of time, whether for a job or something. And she was talking about how much she enjoyed him being gone. And I'm not sure why she deleted her post. I'm curious. But I can understand that. Because I always thought that, and I've heard of people doing this where they live separately, like, or like I've heard of like couples having houses right next to each other. So there's like his house and her house, and like they can stay with each other or whatever, but like they have their own spaces. And I mean, that kind of sounds good to me on some levels, because sharing a space with somebody can be really annoying. But then on the other hand, it's like you want to be with them all the time. So, but it's like, I feel like she'd been with her husband for a really long time. And I think she was wondering if, does that mean she doesn't want to be with him anymore or whatever? So some people said maybe they should have just separate bedrooms. My grandparents had separate bedrooms, but they were old by then. And my grandma snored like crazy town. Like I couldn't even sleep anywhere near her bedroom. I I don't know, because I'm not a relationship person and I'm definitely not married. Christina says I could understand separate bedrooms, but not houses. See, I feel like I could understand houses better than bedrooms. So I feel like, I guess it does give you your own space in the house, but like you're still sharing the main living quarters, and that can still be annoying. I mean, I definitely think it would be important for everybody to have a space that was like theirs. Like, that's why men have their garages and their like man sheds and, things like that, because they got to have a space that they don't have to worry about the other person like caring about. This person responded to the separate bedrooms. It sounds like they need separate lives. It does kind of sound like they need separate lives. I mean, we can't, just from what I remember from the post, it sounded like she was like, I don't know. Maybe that's why she took it down. I love my sleep too. I struggle to sleep. So when I am sleeping and I get woke up, I'm very grumpy about it. And I've been single forever. So sleeping in a bed with somebody else is challenging for me. Trina says, damn, people staying married to people they can't stand. See, this is why I wish we had the post still, but you can kind of get the idea from the responses that the way that she wrote this post really made it sound like she was just really happy to not have him around. This person doomed since creation says, honestly, I think this is why it's sometimes a good thing to know how to live alone and experience living alone before moving in with a significant other or getting married. I 100% agree. 100% agree. I think it's dangerous to a certain extent to not know that you're okay alone, and to understand what it feels like, because then when you're in a relationship, like if you're scared of being alone on top of it, then there's a bigger chance that you stay with somebody because you don't want to be alone. And that's one thing I always wish I could like if you're like, feel like you wish you could take a feeling that you're feeling and like give it to your friend. Cause like I've had friends in the past that, they just didn't want to be alone and the loneliness was so hard. And I was like, listen, it is hard, but it's kind of like getting over like, an addiction in a way. Like once you get past it for a while, it gets better. And then it starts to you become in a place of understanding that the loneliness actually isn't near as bad as it is being in an unhappy relationship with somebody. Like they actually don't even compare. Um, but it takes a minute. I mean, like you have to suffer through it at first and kind of sit in it and get used to it until you get to that point where you start to like see the independence and the strength in it. And then once you get to that point, then you can move into, you know, feeling whole on your own. And then, if you get into a relationship with someone in the future, then maybe you're going to be less likely to stay with them just because you're afraid of being alone, because a lot of people do that. Or, they go from one person to the next because they can't be alone. And it's dangerous, it can be dangerous and not a great reason to be in a relationship. Christina says, then you can't imagine having to consult your partner before making choices. You don't just get to make them. Yeah. You have to. I've heard it said that being single for too long is like dangerous because you get to a point where it's really nice not having to worry about someone else. And like it gets to be where like that person has to be so amazing for you to give up like your independence. And like because I live alone, I come home and I don't worry about, I never have to have that like stress feeling about coming home, like the person in my home, like arguing with them, or if there's tension or anything like that, you don't have it. You don't have to ask somebody else what they think, what they want to do. You just do you. So you get too used to it. That can also lead to wanting to be alone forever. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting post about that.
Kynny After Dark.